This is activity 11 in the Level 1 Electronics series, and in it we're going to use a variable resistor to control the brightness of our 5 LED rainbow. To see this and all of the other activities in Level 1 Electronics, visit jb.works and enter the TMT code at the bottom of the screen at the search prompt. This is our circuit. So basically, I've got 3 volts going into a variable resistor right here. Then I've got the output of the variable resistor going into our 1K resistor, which feeds into the junction where we go from 1 to 5, and then that's powering our LEDs. So as I turn the resistor clockwise, I'm reducing the resistance and the LEDs are getting brighter. And likewise, if I turn it anti-clockwise, they get dimmer. Now what you would have noticed is that not all of them are turned on first of all, and secondly they're not very bright. So as we did in the previous video, if I move the 3 volts and put it over to 5 volts, that should make a difference. So now if I turn it round, they get brighter. So all of them except the white and the blue are illuminated. Now the reason for this is that the variable resistor is adding on to the resistance from the 1K resistor. And so despite the fact that we've got it being powered from 5 volts, it's still not quite enough to light them all up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the 1K resistor from the circuit and just go directly from the variable resistor to the LEDs. So now if I turn it anti-clockwise, you can see that they have gotten dimmer and some of them have turned off. And then as I move it round and decrease the amount of resistance, the ones that were off have all come on and the others are much brighter. So again, if I turn it anti-clockwise, so you can see the blue one, he just pretty much snaps on when I turn the resistance low enough, and then as soon as I start turning it off, he goes off again. So this is the circuit that we're going to build today. I'll just put that back to there. And so we go back to the 3 volts. And back to our resistor. So this is it. So this is essentially the circuit that we made in activity 9, and we have put a variable resistor in series with the 1K resistor to control the brightness of our LEDs. For this activity you need a charged JackBord, a JackBord top, and 17 female short jumper wires. This is our circuit diagram, and it's basically identical to that of activity 9, except we've added a variable resistor, and that's this guy here. So what's happening in this circuit is the power from 3 volts is starting here, it's going through this jumper into the variable resistor and then coming back out and going into the 1K resistor. And the 1K resistor is here, and this is the variable resistor. So basically the power is going from here through the variable resistor and through the 1K resistor and then into the junction, which is down here. So essentially from this point on, or here, the circuit's identical to that of activity 9. Right, so what I've done is this is the circuit from activity 9. So if you're not sure how to build this up from scratch, just go to activity 9 and have a look. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference. So in activity 9, the power goes direct from 3 volts straight into the 1K resistor. But we want to add a variable resistor. So what we do is we undo this 3 volt line and put it into pin 1 of the variable resistor like that. And then we get a new jumper and go from the center pin of the variable resistor, so that's pin number 2, onto pin 1 of the 1K resistor. So now we've got 3 volts coming from the power supply into pin 1 of the variable resistor, then from pin 2 of the variable resistor we go over to our 1K resistor. And from that point on everything else is the same. So if I turn the power on, we can see that the LEDs are lighting up, not all of them, but most of them. And as I decrease the amount of resistance, they get brighter. And as I increase it, they get dimmer. And as I mentioned earlier on, if I take the 3-volt power line and put it over to 5 volts, see the LEDs get a lot brighter. So again, increase the resistance and they get dimmer. And then lastly, I'll show you if we take out this 1K resistor, so we just remove it all together, and we plug that into the center pin of the variable resistor, and then take a jumper from there straight over to 5 volts. Because we're getting a high voltage and there's less resistance, we've removed that 1K resistor. As I turn the resistor around to get lower resistance, the LEDs light up really nicely. And then if I turn it so the resistance is high, you can see they get dimmer and some of them turn off altogether. And what you can do is you can experiment with using different resistors, etc. Oh, and my 5 volts is a little bit loose. Use these pictures to check your connections. In this image, we see the connection from the 3-volt power supply to the first pin, or pin 1, of the variable resistor. And in this picture, we see the connection from the variable resistor pin 2 into the 1K resistor. For more information, visit jb.works.